It's Rebecca Lynn Matheson here, and today I'm joined by Kayla Smith, and we're going to talk all about May's Niagara stats.
The big takeaway here, I think, is the dramatic increase in price, 40% year over year, unheard of previous to, recent times. It's 40%. Insane. Yeah. Number of sales, there was a massive increase. We almost doubled. It was an interesting month for sure. And I think the first one that really shows, there is a bit of a, dare I say, calmness in the market in comparison to what we were seeing, December, January, February.
What is going on, YouTube? It's Rebecca Lynn Matheson here, and today I'm joined by Kayla Smith. I'm going to be the guest host on this market update, and we're going to talk all about May's Niagara stats. So welcome, Kayla, to the channel.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. Excited to share what happened in the month of May in Niagara.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited to learn a little bit more about Niagara. I know we have definitely a lot of business down there and a lot of investors that are keenly interested in the Niagara stats. So I'm excited to hear kind of what May has brought and all of the new updates.
All right. So I'm going to say it with the caveat that May was still, when we're doing year over year, still affected by COVID. Going back to March, that's when we went into lockdown. So May, the stats for year over year are still slightly feeling that COVID effect in 2020. And I mean in 2021, because we were technically still in lockdown, but that didn't seem to have, an effect on the market all that much. This please note right here is a new feature for the Niagara board. So just to preface it with that, the May 2020 to May 2021 comparison emphasizes the negative impact Ontario's first COVID lockdown had on the province's economy, including Niagara, but also shines a light on the market's dramatic recovery and the desirability of the Niagara region as a place to call home. So with that sentiment, we will dive right in. So this is year over year. As you can see, there was a pretty dramatic increase from May of last year to May of this year in terms of listings. So we went from 772 across the region to 1,246. And then the number of sales kind of mirrored that. So 483 in 2020. And 941 in 2021, and there was increases across the board for every area. The big takeaway here, I think, is the dramatic increase in price. So in 2020, and again, this would be affected by who was in the market at the time due to COVID. And a whole bunch of other reasons why people may not have been buying at a higher price point at that time. Uncertainty was at an all-time high then. But to now, when we're at 648,100 as our benchmark price, and you'll see again nowhere left behind, but some notable increases. Font Hill and Pelham from 696,200 to 925,700 as their average price. Niagara on the Lake, so 758,500 to 1,049,600, and then you can see everywhere else has had kind of dramatic increases as well. And then another thing to note would be your average days on market. So again, this is median is sometimes a better measure of this, but from 43 in 2020 to 14 in 2021.
Those numbers, just to see that from 2020 to 2021, that is a crazy increase. And obviously there are a multitude of factors that affect that, as you mentioned, just a few things going on in uncertainty with COVID, and also that inventory, that's huge as well in that price jump, where we had for a long period of time just a very low inventory in the area and then a big jump. So that inventory wasn't actually, I presume, meeting the demand that was needed for housing in the area, which is another factor that can greatly increase that price point. So do you see any other major factors in 2021 now that are continuing to drive those prices up, or has it now leveled off?
So despite the, actually, you know what, I'm going to go to the next slide because it's month over month, which may paint a pretty, you know, a decent picture on that. So the number of new listings, you can actually see from April 2021 to May 2021, there was a slight decrease in listings, where we're kind of hearing across the board that inventory, like we're getting more and more inventory. Niagara region has seen just a slight decrease, so it's not, you know, nothing too worrisome, but and the number of sales have kind of followed that. This also just follows the trend of, you know, the spring to summer market. People start going away. There is May 2-4, people are at their cottages. But as far as, you know, the trends, yes, we are seeing more inventory come on, which is helping. We're still in a seller's market, but it is shifting. I mean, everyone's hearing this across the board. It is a little bit easier for buyers to get into the market. And then you can see month over month, we're still seeing increases, only slightly. But there was a report done, they're saying the Niagara region, we're looking at anywhere between 11 to 13% increase this year, which is an interesting statistic given the climate. And then this pretty much stayed, you know, exactly the same, because the number of listings and sales kind of were at the same rate. What we are seeing is maybe a little less of the holding offers, everyone pricing low to get, you know, these bidding wars. That's not to say they're still not happening, because they are, but I think that there's been, you know, a shift in the type of advice that agents are giving their clients, and they seem to be pricing a little bit closer to where they're looking to get, and some even, you know, a little bit higher than they're looking to get if they're not holding offers, which leaves them some room for, you know, negotiating on the buy side. So there is, you know, definitely some shifting happening, but you can still see there's still a lot of action in the market. And in as far as the prices go, like some dropped, I mean, very little. And then we're still seeing some increases across the board. So it was an interesting month for sure. And I think the first one that really shows, like, you know, there is a bit of a, dare I say, calmness in the market in comparison to what we were seeing, you know, December, January, February.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that breakdown that you gave there too of the shift in strategy. Because as an agent, you would have to be so dynamic in this market with all of these changes, the uncertainties, the fluctuations, and having a strategy going into each listing as to where to actually position the property in terms of the price point. So that's really interesting too, that you noted there the shift in strategy rather than it low to gain bidding wars. People are now more positioning it a little bit higher so that you have some negotiation room.
Yeah, I think in like when we were seeing like very low inventory, there was just, it was almost, you would have to price low to, you know, and hold offers because that's what everyone else was doing. But because there's a variation across the board, it is very house specific now on what makes the most sense for each property. So it's definitely been, you know, it's nice to see that, just so we can, you know, help our sellers market appropriately as well. And then if I move on to this, so this is just a different way to display the data. So this top box here is May 2020 to May 2021. So, I mean, number of sales, there was a massive increase. We almost doubled. And again, that had a lot to do with COVID and what was going on at the time. Change in price, that's huge, 40% year over year, unheard of previous to, you know, recent times. It's 40%. Insane. Yeah, we almost doubled there too. And like I said, it would have something to do with who was in the market in May. My guess is that there were a lot of investors at the time because they're always looking. And maybe first-time home buyers that weren't affected by COVID. But for people who were already in their primary residence, they may not have had such a push to sell until they kind of had a better feel of what was going on. So that could be why this price is so low. But this is a very, very good tell of what's happening in Niagara. It's a place where people want to be and are willing to pay, you know, pretty good dollar to be here. And then this average days on market, again, this has to do with COVID, but 43 to 14. There was, you know, quite a drastic decrease there. And then the number of new listings, which we talked about, was an increase of 61.4%. And then this one just paints the month over month picture. So like I said, there was a decrease in sales as well as a decrease in new listings. You can see that those are kind of on par with each other. And then this 0.8%. So basically 1% increase month over month, which is still a great sign. And then average days on market dropped by 1 day. So just a different way to display the data. I just wanted to show everyone, you know, depending on how you like to read different charts, this one I find to be quite helpful. Any questions about that, Rebecca?
Yeah, I mean, the benchmark price just certainly paints a picture as to how COVID has affected this market. That is a 40% increase is unheard of. Like, that is wild.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think it shows that, again, one, COVID, this in May 2020, that was still a point where we're all like, okay, what is this going to do to the real estate market? I don't think any of us would have guessed 40% increase year over year. But again, Niagara is a great place to be, guys. So this, if this says anything, that's what it says.
Absolutely.
And then I always like to show this. This is just a fun little, you know, graph, but you can see that the trend in the graph wasn't too different. You had a kind of a peak here in 2021, which this was the beginning of May, whereas this one kind of hit here. But the real take home again, so this is only in Broker Bay, but it is a great way to show the increase in showings. So, I mean, in May of 2020, we were looking at 5,696 showings for the properties that were in Broker Bay. May 2021, 16,583. And then offers 271 in 2020 and 1724 in 2021. And you can see these numbers are actually lower than last month, but obviously there was a drastic increase for these guys. And then the average price, again, these are just for properties in Broker Bay, but you can still see that drastic increase there. So I just wanted to show that because it is interesting to see, again, you know, you're still having quite a few showings on every property. Some, obviously there is, you know, some get a lot more than others, but there are still a ton of showings happening and a ton of offers for the number of properties that were being sold. So that is why I like to show that data.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how the graphs actually look very similar too from year to year, but the numbers are just so drastically different.
Yeah, and we are used to seeing kind of a lull at the beginning and the end of the month. That's, I mean, just by when houses close and whatnot. But yeah, as far as, you know, the trajectory of the graph, it is fairly similar, but it's the numbers that kind of paint the real picture. And speaking of numbers, so a lot of the investors that I've been talking to are first-time investors. They're not quite ready because their budget doesn't maybe fit what they think they can get. So I just wanted to show something like this. So this is a legal duplex, 2-bed up, 2-bed down. It did need work. It's in an okay neighborhood. I would say probably about a C+, depending on where it is. This was listed for $399, sold for $360. It was on the market for it wasn't on for too long, but enough that like if you were actively looking, you would have seen it. And it was vacant on possession. And there are duplexes, like this could be a perfect BRRRR if the renovations were done properly, or a buy and hold and BRRRR later. Like there was so much potential with this one. And I just wanted to show new investors, like, and if you're house hacking too, like what a perfect opportunity to have your entire mortgage paid off by, you know, the other renter. But I just wanted to kind of give everyone a little bit of hope that these deals are still possible. I know it's not 100,000 a unit, which, you know, we all still desire to get, but is a little bit more unheard of in this region now, but still a really great deal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to know that there are still deals out there. And I'm sure anyone who bought last year is just loving their life with any refinance options or otherwise that they would have the ability to do, or just the massive appreciation in their property. But even now, like, there's still opportunities out there. You just have to be actively looking for them. And this is a great example of that. And I love the strategies as well from an investing standpoint that you highlighted on this deal. Like, absolutely great house hack. Fantastic work.
Yes, it does offer like a multitude of, you know, of options depending on what your strategy is. And even if you're a new investor, maybe you don't have the funds to do the reno right away, you can rent for a year and reno it later. Private funding, like, there's so many different options with this one. So that's why I wanted to show this one. This was in Niagara Falls, not far from Clifton Hill and all that good stuff that people go to Niagara Falls for. So there's that one. And then this one. So this is actually one that I picked up with, like, for an investor. We went and saw it. So just to give you some background, it's a triplex for 511. Obviously, this was in multiple offers. We did go over. However, this is down the street from the new condos that are being built in St. Catharines, which will automatically raise the value because you're getting a gorgeous building, literally 10 houses down the street. But it's also 2 3-beds and 1 2-bed. So it can bring in quite a lot of rent. They are big units. One's in the basement, one is kind of like a half up, half down, and the other one's at the front of the house on the main floor. And there's a bunch of parking in the back, so it meets all those requirements, close to downtown, like walkable. So I think, like, this was a steal. There is room to reno and you know, and take out some of the money that they have in it as well, depending on what strategy they use. So I just wanted to point this out, that also there's deals like this, and this is in St. Catharines, so, you know, a little closer to the highway, a little closer to Hamilton, Toronto, depending on where you're coming from. So yeah, great deal. I'm super excited for them for when they get it. It just, yeah, it's offers a ton of potential.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a perfect deal to highlight, and why it's so important to have the right real estate agent in your power team like Kayla, who has the market knowledge and can actually give you the context of, you know, there's developments going in the area. This is actually going to continue to appreciate over time, and it fits the investing strategy. It works. You have fantastic rentability in that particular area in St. Catharines, and just hitting all of those points and just knowledge about the market is so important. So that's great that you're able to get that win for your investor and have a very successful deal by the sounds of it for them.
Yeah, super excited for them. And then moving on, I just wanted to point out some I've had a lot of people interested in Airbnb lately.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons. So I just wanted to pull some stats. This is Niagara Falls, and openly, Niagara Falls is not the easiest place to do an Airbnb. They do have a lot of rules, laws, etc., that, you know, that do make it difficult, but it's not impossible by any means. There's tons of people doing it. But just to give some stats, so obviously we have a ton of people coming to the falls every year. We already knew that. COVID put a huge damper on that, but I can imagine that there will still be people that are afraid to travel internationally after this. But locally, there will be tons of local travel. 13 million annual visitor count. Niagara Falls is not that big, so there's a lot of the wealth to go around. Accommodation providers, this is including, you know, every single type of. And then GDP, so 2.4 billion, a lot of money to go around as well. As far as Airbnb goes, so active vacation rentals, this was done just a few months ago, so this is still likely very accurate. 1222, 52% occupancy of the market. I want to say that with the caveat of there are some awful Airbnbs that don't get rented very often. Either they're too expensive, they're not very nice, etc. We've seen people that go in, make these beautiful, and have a wicked occupancy rate. So don't let that scare you away. As long as you're giving someone a great place to, you know, vacation, they're going to rent it. that I understand this could be a bit daunting, but I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. Average daily rate, $171 a night. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Annual rev growth, 4%. Annual occupancy growth, 12%. I would suspect that with COVID, these may go up. And then this is just your estimated annual revenue based off of the research that they had done for each individual type of property. And you can see, even in a studio, like, you're still doing very well. And then 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed. So I just wanted to give everyone those stats that may help you when you're, when you're looking at Airbnb potential properties. I'm working on a map right now of all the areas that allow it, all the condo developments that will allow it. So if anyone's interested in that, please reach out. I'm happy to provide it. I'm just on the tail end of it now, waiting on a few more, a few more condos to get back to me. But yeah, I think there's a ton of potential. The nice thing about Airbnb, really anywhere in the Niagara region, is you can do so many different things. You have the wineries, you have the outlets, you have the falls, there's trails, there's beaches, like, there's kind of an unlimited, amount of different things that you can do if you're here. And this just provides like a central base for you to go back to. So just wanted to point that out for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love they're highlighting Airbnbs. That's something that I see a huge opportunity in this year, especially. Like, the feedback that I've been getting from people too, and even myself, if I'm going to go somewhere, I would actually feel more comfortable staying in an Airbnb rather than a huge hotel that's hundreds of people coming in and out. It just seems more personalized, and you also have the cleaners coming in and out in between each stay, and I would just feel more comfortable staying in an Airbnb. So I'm definitely seeing a huge opportunity in Niagara, given all of the tourist attractions, like you mentioned, all of the opportunities there, wineries. I'm sure we all love going down to Niagara on the Falls, a little bike around the vineyard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be a great spot to go for this summer. So Airbnb, that's a great strategy in Niagara. Like, that is going to blow up.
Yeah, I agree. And I also wanted to point out, Niagara region as cottage country. You know so much about cottages. I don't think, and maybe you can agree with me, but I don't think Niagara region is really seen as like a vacation spot for cottages. And I think that that's a bit of a miss. One, it's likely a lot closer for a lot of people, at least less traffic than Toronto way. There are some gorgeous beaches. I'm going to one tomorrow. But you have Crystal Beach, you have different parts of Port Colborne and Fort Erie, you have even St. Catharines has some nice beaches. So there's just, I think that there was, it was maybe slept on for a while. More and more people are becoming more interested in it and looking in it. Even Airbnb opportunities in like this cottagey area. And I know some people that have properties in Crystal Beach, as an example, even in like Shirkston, that are doing very, very well. And when I talk to people on the phone, it's not something that they associated with Niagara. And I think that there is a lot of opportunity there. And to that, it's also a great place to, like we just talked about for the Airbnbs, if you're at a cottage, you don't necessarily only have to do cottage things. You can, again, go to the falls, go to the wineries, take a day away from, the cottage lifestyle and go shopping or something. So I just wanted to point that out. People are very, very successful in this area in terms of beach houses, cottages. And I think that it offers, again, a bit of a unique opportunity with what's surrounding it. So yeah, I just wanted, and that is Crystal Beach. That's a photo of an aerial of it. So it is obviously very lovely.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would call this more of that like urban cottage experience. And frankly, a lot of people actually, they think they want the rustic experience where they're like out in the woods and, you have to like go to the washroom in the woods. You have to bring all your food. Like, but actually people really love that like blend where they don't have to drive very far. You got the kids in the back complaining the whole time that you're driving.
Yeah.
So you don't have to drive very far, and you still get that feeling of getting away and having that amazing experience. Absolutely. There's great cottage vibes in the Niagara area, and I like that like the beachy kind of vibes in those Airbnbs can be so lovely as a nice little getaway. We'll have to do some Airbnb tours down there and highlight a few.
Yeah, I started looking at cottages in the area, and like there's tons of beachfront. They're a little more price friendly than your Muskokas, which makes sense. They're, you know, it's not as rustic as you're saying. But there are some gorgeous, gorgeous cottages for the same price as, you know, maybe something that is very rustic. So if Wi-Fi is your thing, this might be an option for, you know, cottage potential for you. And then just moving on here, this is going to be a standing point in every month now, because every time it's in here, I get messages and calls and all that stuff. So just to open it so everyone can see what it is, I'm not going to go into as much detail as I did last time, but this program allows you to map out every city resource from school, park, beach, wineries, any capital projects that are taking place. You can see property lines. You can measure. There's so much that you can do in this program. If anyone needs help using it, just let me know. I'm on it every day. But I just wanted to show everyone, even government office, like something as small as that. You can see that little guy just popped up. So just a bunch of different potential. Those are all schools. If you're not a huge fan of being near cemeteries, there's all your cemeteries, so you know where not to buy. Designated heritage, which offers it can offer a bit of a headache for investors. Those are all your designated heritage properties. So again, I'm just gonna, at the end of every presentation, this is going to be in there just so people can see exactly what they're getting into when they're buying. Just because again, it does offer a ton of help when you're deciding on where you should buy.
Yeah, this is cool.
Every time I get, like, literally every comment is like, oh my gosh, Niagara Navigator, how did they like do that? And I'm like, honestly, it's such a crazy program, I don't even know. But you can see all those dots are where there's going to be some sort of capital budget point, maybe like road work, etc. So yeah, it's just this is actually my favorite one, is the wineries, because they all show up as grapes.
Yes.
So yeah, very important. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out again. It is definitely a helpful resource. And I think that's about it. Any questions, Rebecca?
I think, that tool is fantastic. I am going to pop onto that right after our call here. But yeah, is there anything that you see in terms of development opportunities that maybe people are missing or don't really know about yet? Like, I heard that a rumor, and maybe you can confirm or deny this, that there's going to be a GO train expansion out to the Niagara region. So it seems like that area is really growing, and there's a lot of opportunity down that way.
Yeah, so that is not false. They are basically done the St. Catharines, so that's in the Pelham area. I've mentioned Pelham before. It's one of my favorite areas, and that also offers obviously like a double opportunity in that area, because it hasn't turned around like some other areas have in St. Catharines. And it will go all the way out and run to Toronto more frequently than the current train line does. And yeah, so as far as development goes, which will also be along the GO line, there is the towers going up in Lincoln. Lakeside said to allow short-term rentals, pretty favorable entry prices. I think they're at the low 4s now. So these are 2 condo towers. And I think, like, people are always asking, like, oh, but should I look at the new developments in Niagara, like Niagara Falls? And of course, there's potential there as well, because everyone comes and they want to be in the Falls. So there's the Stanley Towers there, and there are still units left. I just looked before this. Also said to allow short-term rentals. So I think that either of those are a great choice if you're looking to get into the pre-built condo market. Very favorable prices, and especially if Airbnb is your goal. they are said to allow that as well. So I would keep an eye on either of those. There are a ton of also like townhouse developments, modern towns, bigger houses, like just where I live, like 2 minutes from here, I'm watching houses go up literally every day on the route that I walk on. So there's no slowness of any sort of development over COVID. There may have been delays due to materials, but there are houses going up like crazy here. So if pre-build is your niche, there's definitely some opportunity out this way.
That's awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to highlight from the May stats before we wrap up here, Kayla?
Other than, like I said, for new investors, like don't be discouraged by your budget. There is likely something that can be done. Reach out. I'm happy to help you. New investors, like I said, I've had a bunch call just discouraged by the prices, but like I was able to show there are still deals out there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just don't get discouraged and reach out, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome. Now, where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Honestly, like it doesn't really matter. Reach out anyway. Instagram, email, Facebook. I'm happy to answer any which way. Book a call in my Instagram profile. All the details are in the video. And yeah, I'm always happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. Another fantastic market update here in Niagara Falls and the Niagara region. So some really great opportunities by the sounds of it, both for investors and otherwise in Niagara. So definitely make sure you reach out to Kayla if you have any questions from today's chat, or even if you just want to start looking for properties with Kayla. She is very knowledgeable in the area and can absolutely help you out. So thanks for joining today.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca.